Women said, I don't want no man. I don't need no man. I'd rather choose the bear. And men have responded, well, then you can go play with Yogi and Boo Boo in the woods. Men are refusing to have children, and women are pissed. They are outright demanding paternity tests before they will even get a woman pregnant. What does that mean? That means the woman has to sign an agreement that she will provide a paternity test prior to them being labeled the father in a relationship. That's how bad things have now gotten. Today's video comes from the China Unvarnished channel, and it will be linked in the description of the video so that you can go check it out and support them. Watch to the end of the video to fully understand the implications of men refusing to have children or get women pregnant unless the woman provides them with something in writing that she will not claim they are the father until there is a paternity test provided. Also, guys, don't forget to follow us on Rumble. You never know what can happen on this platform. So go ahead and follow us on Rumble. Most of our content's already over there. And our Rumble is linked in the description of the video. And guys, before we begin, things are going downhill right now. The financial system is on the brink of collapse. ATMs will freeze, banks will lock their doors, your wealth is at risk. Learn how to protect your assets with crypto. Angry's Crypto Academy will teach you how to buy, sell, trade, and invest in the safest coins. Guys, don't wait until it's too late. Secure your future today. There is only 1 day left to save 30% off all plans at Angry's Crypto Academy for our Trump's Inauguration Day sale, which ends January 20th at 11:59 p.m. Click the link in the video description to join the Academy and take advantage of the sale. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the video.
亲子鉴定，只要是跟你在婚内生的孩子，无论是基因谁的孩子，都是属于你的孩子。国外都是坚持做亲子鉴定的。
性价比，我的肚子我做主，我想怀哪个就怀哪个。
It's not because the man from an affair can't afford to raise the child, but because my husband is a better deal. My belly is mine to control. If I want to have a child with whichever man, I will. More and more girls are calling for legislation to ban paternity tests, following the example of foreign countries. Because generally speaking, the reason for doing a paternity test is out of suspicion, and the results often end up revealing that the child is not biologically related. This often leads to many women being kicked out by their husbands and losing long-term financial support. For example, there was that case where a husband found out that all 4 of his children were not his biological children. After this, male compatriots collectively suggested making paternity tests part of newborn health checks. Although this suggestion has many benefits, if you actually propose this to your wife, I bet if she had a C-section, she would probably jump up and slap you, or even divorce you right on the spot. So, personally, I think it's completely unnecessary. Look, if it becomes legally mandatory to do a paternity test, and you accidentally lose the child's birth certificate, or if you're too busy taking care of your wife after childbirth and a couple of months go by, and then you remember that the child's household registration hasn't been done yet when you go to register the child. The household registration office will require you to provide a paternity test to prove that this child is indeed your biological child, and not one that was trafficked or picked up from a garbage bin. You see, because of one small oversight, you will have to spend several thousand yuan on a paternity test, and all your good mood will be gone.
这个女的就是要一条道走到。
Let me tell you something. Do you see how corrupt these people are? Do you see how messed up their thinking is? So what they actually did was in France, it is illegal for a man to obtain a paternity test, and this was actually ruled on by the highest court in France. So their version of the Supreme Court ruled that they are going to uphold the law which prevents men in France from obtaining a paternity test because it could potentially lead to a serious disruption of the family in France. What this basically means is that the government in France believes that most of the children in France are not the biological children of the men who raised them. In the United States, it is believed that 50%, 30 to 50% of all children born are born as a result of paternity fraud, and the fathers who are raising them are not actually their fathers. In France, it is believed, however, that that number is much higher, being roughly potentially a minimum of 70 to even 90%. Yeah, it's absolutely insane. So they believe that it's well above 50% in France, potentially a minimum of 70% to even 80% of all the children in France were raised by fathers who were not theirs, and it was a result of paternity fraud. In China right now, men are saying that they don't want to have children unless even their wives agree that their names will not go on the birth certificate until a paternity test is done. And now they're talking about legislation that would require that a paternity test be done at the time of birth. Here you have this very corrupt individual, and this is the way that modern women think. This is how women operate, saying that, if you were to do this, this could hurt the woman because, what happens if the man finds out that the children are not his? Then the woman is thrown out on the street. How is she going to survive? How are the children going to survive? Notice she could care less about the man and the fact that the man is raising children that are not his, because the way women look at it is that this man was not good enough to be the father of those children. So I'm going to go and have children with another man, the man that I actually want. All right. And then, this man who's I'm choosing as my beta male provider will raise those children. When you have a situation where a man has 4 children with a woman, none of those kids are his, the explanation is very simple. She deliberately chose to ensure that he would not be able to get her pregnant. Okay? It's a crazy scenario. She made sure to set the type of situation where she could not get pregnant by this man, meaning that she may have been on the pill or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And when she decided that she did want to begin having children, she would get off the pill and she would be physically intimate with Chad and Tyrone, or Hung Lo in the case of China. And she would basically deny her husband intimacy during that period of time because she was trying to get pregnant by these men that she loves, like Little Poncho. Then when she would get pregnant, she would turn around and claim that the child was the man's. And of course, most men are not even keeping track of when was the last time this happened. They get like a general idea. So when the woman says that she's pregnant, he doesn't even think about it twice. It's a messed up situation. Listen to what this woman just said. She goes, well, if you don't have, if you go and have and require paternity tests and your name's not on the birth certificate and something happens, then you're going to have to go through all of this stress to go and get a paternity test, and you're going to be stressed out because you're not going to be able to prove that the child is yours, and now you're going to be miserable. Men don't want to pay for a child that's not theirs. Men don't want to take care of a child that's not theirs. That's why they're panicking over in China, guys. This is the same thing in the US. All right. Women do not want this to happen because if this goes through, if these legislations happen and the state doesn't want it to happen either, it's over. It's absolutely over. All right. And the government in China may very well end up banning the practice as well. They might ban all. Do not be surprised if the Chinese government, the CCP, bans access to paternity tests in China, because they damn well know that so many of those children are not the children of the men that these men will walk out. And right now, men are not marrying in the country. Men are not having children. So if these men begin walking out and stop providing financial support to women in these countries, it's over. China does not have the ability to subsidize the living of all of these women. It just simply does not. And as a result, you end up in a situation where they're panicking now, saying that, okay, we need to do something very quickly to get these men to prevent these men from finding out the kids aren't theirs, because there's no social security over there in China. There's like a small amount of money that the government may give to people who are very poor, but it's not enough to survive on. That's why you end up having people who are like eating bugs and living in extreme destitution in China, because the government does not have that kind of money to provide for its people. What they do is they hide the extreme poverty, and they even make it illegal to show off extreme poverty on the internet. This is how China operates. But there's extreme poverty in China. And it's very sad to say this, but it's just a reality. So if this occurs, it will result in a lot of men completely avoiding, just not even avoiding relationships. They're already avoiding relationships, but it will result in a lot of men in these countries who are already father to these children just basically saying, I want a paternity test. And when they go and get paternity tests and they find out that those kids aren't theirs, they are now leaving. Or when they are, this woman is pregnant and she basically, the child is about to be born, or the child is now born, and they do the paternity test, they find out the child is not even theirs. That relationship is over, and it only further pushes people away. China cannot take care of the women in China. This is how the Roman Empire fell, where basically just before the Roman Empire fell, all the empire's finances were being used to subsidize women. Men walked away, and one of the Caesars, I forget which one it was, said that single men were worse than all of the criminals in the Roman Empire, worse than all of the worst of the thieves, the liars, the guys who do unwanted snuggling, worse than all of them. And these men were punished. They were not allowed, single men were punished. They were not allowed to go to the Colosseum. They were not allowed to go to public shows. They were barred from all public events, all entertainment. So no television. Basically, it's the equivalent of no TV, no movies, no video games. And they were, even during the winter time, they were forced to run in the streets, chain gang style, and to punish them for not getting married, and they still would not get married. As a result of this, men began rushing away from relationships and dating, and this all started happening after no-fault divorces, where women began running and marrying gladiators and divorcing their husbands and marrying gladiators. Men gave up on society, men walked away from society, and within 100 years, there was no longer a military. And of course, we know what ended up happening next. We had the barbarians. The barbarians basically tried to invade the empire. The emperor, who basically had the empire, had no money, it had no military, and of course, the laws of the empire said that slaves could not be used to fight the wars. They were actually using slaves entirely to subsidize every aspect of the empire. In other words, they were using that labor for, they were using people who were doctors, every walk of life. They would go to other areas and so forth, capture these people and use these skilled laborers to provide for the empire with no compensation. But they could no longer protect themselves. And when I say provide for the empire, I mean provide for women. The barbarians came to the empire. The emperor tried to bribe them with land because they had no gold, they had no resources left. They had spent it all on the women over the last 100 years. They were broke. The barbarians the barbarians called the emperor's bluff, realizing the emperor had no clothes. They pillaged the empire. The empire fell into 1,000 years of darkness. And, well, Europe fell into 1,000 years of darkness, known as the Dark Ages. And then we emerged from that 1,000 years later when math and science were rediscovered. But the reality is that math and science were never actually gone. It was being hidden and kept secret by the Catholic Church, who ruled over humanity for 1,000 years. There was also another part of the Roman Empire that did survive. However, that part of the empire was basically separated from the rest of most of Europe, and they basically did their best to preserve as much knowledge as they could for 1,000 years. But the rest of the empire, the rest of Europe, most of Europe was plunged into the Dark Ages, and it was basically the age of ignorance. That's where concepts of witchcraft and all that garbage came from, where the church was telling people that, we can get your loved ones out of hell if you pay us a certain amount of money. Yeah. And all of that happened because of the actions of women in society. So this is exactly where we're heading. Right now, we're heading into the age of stupidity. We are in the age of stupidity, because where the dumbest things are being promoted as though they actually make sense. Is quite sickening. That's why you have to really protect yourself, guys. Trump's inauguration is about to happen, and guys, the crypto is going to it's already skyrocketing right now. People are taking profit. Bitcoin had went to $104,000. My favorite cryptos skyrocketed up like 30%. I keep on warning you guys. I tell you guys exactly which coins to purchase in the academy. This is your last chance before the boom. Don't be stupid right now. All the plans, everything is all of our plans, our paid member plan, our boot camp membership plan, everything is 30% off. It's only 30. You only have it's 1 day left. So the sale actually ends on January 20th at 11:59 p.m. So you have 1 day to go get into the academy and take advantage of the sale. It's actually linked in the description of the video. Ask you something. When the banks collapse, and trust me, it's coming, will you be ready? Imagine waking up to ATMs that don't work, bank doors chained shut, and millions of people left with nothing. No cash, no access to their savings, and no way to survive. But It doesn't have to be that way for you. That's why I created Angry's Crypto Academy to teach you everything you need to know about crypto so you can protect yourself and your family. You'll learn how to buy, sell, and even day trade crypto for a living. Plus, we alert you to new crypto trends so you can profit before everyone else even knows what's happening. Right now, I've just published an exclusive investment guide inside the Academy, and it's linked in the description below. In it, I reveal the one coin that could make you a millionaire. A coin so revolutionary, it could change everything. If you missed out on Bitcoin and Ethereum, this is your second chance. This isn't just about financial freedom, it's about survival. When the system collapses and everyone else is selling, you'll be the one buying, prepared to weather the storm and thrive while others struggle to survive. Don't wait. This knowledge isn't optional, it's critical. The link's in the description. Go check it out now.
课也没闲着。
A very popular news event recently. This woman is truly relentless, never resting for a moment. Before her marriage was even over, she already had 3 children with her lover. Her husband, enraged by his wife's infidelity, has taken her to court, and public opinion has been escalating, becoming more and more intense. Incredibly, despite the situation, she boldly had a 4th child with her lover. Her repeated actions are hard to comprehend. You could say she's not loyal, right? She has had 4 children with her lover. But if you say she is loyal, then these 4 children have nothing to do with her husband. Thankfully, she didn't meet a strong man. Had she done so, the consequences could have been even more severe. If this were a feudal society, such a woman would definitely be paraded in the streets as a moral warning, to show everyone the consequences of losing all shame. Everyone finds it strange. Why hasn't this woman divorced yet after having 4 children with someone else? The main reason seems to be that she wants her husband to continue financially supporting her and her children, continuing to make him the big fool. This husband not only worked hard for 16 years but also helplessly supported her lover. The husband had given her 25,000 yuan, but in no time, she gave that money to her lover. She even secretly helped her lover take out a loan of 300,000 yuan, which is a joint debt that both she and her husband need to repay.
Something very interesting I should tell you guys. So there was a story that happened pretty recently. Many of you guys know the story, where a guy, I believe it was over in Texas, his wife was cheating on him, and he had been married to this woman for a long time, maybe a couple of decades, and she stole like $100,000 from their joint savings account and then gave it to her lover, to the guy that she was cheating on him with. And he basically recorded her as he spoke to her and said, like, you know, you did this to me, and she could care less. We could watch the video, and the dude was like, bro actually had he was holding a firearm, and he basically was like, you know, you did this to me. She didn't even try to negotiate. She basically was like, she knew what she did. He caught her red-handed doing it, and she showed zero empathy or remorse for what she had done. And she basically ended up getting control alt deleted. The case went before a jury of all women. I guarantee you, if there had been men on there, some simps on there, things would have gone differently. But ironically, and of course it didn't have to go this way, but it's Texas, it went before a jury of all women. And, you know, there's this thing called, like, I remember when I was in school, I had a professor from Texas, and he actually talked about this. There's a term for it where it's like, you know, if you go and you control alt delete someone, it's called a crime of passion. I guess that's kind of what they kind of referred to it as. They basically treated it as that. And the jury ultimately found that, like, you know, they held him responsible, but they didn't get him on, like, you know, first degree. So he got something like a 10-year sentence, and he can be out in as early as 5 years. And of course, women were not pleased about this, but think about what this woman had done to him. She stole $100,000 and gave it to that man. A lot of women, if you interview them, they will talk about the fact that like what they'll do is they'll take money from a man and then give it to the men that they like. This is women do not see us as human beings. They don't see our hard work that we put in for the things that we have. They just because everything is handed to them. So they view the world as one big piggy bank, and they only see us as ATMs. They only want us for our attention, our time, and our money. They don't, they like the things that we have. They like the things that we can do for them, but they never actually like us. This is why I say she will never love you. She can love things about you. She can love qualities you have. She can love the things that you do for her, but she will never love you for who you are. And that's why men are now waking up and refusing to have children, and women are pissed. Basically, no paternity test, no babies. And it's going to go. This is the direction it's heading in. That's why women now are demanding that the state ban paternity tests outright. This is how to show you how corrupt women are in Western society. And whenever you see videos online of a man handing a woman a paternity test and saying like, hey, because this is what a lot of guys do. They'll disguise it like it's something cool, like it's tickets to a concert or something, or a carnival cruise, and they give it to the woman, so she thinks that it's nothing. You think it's something nice, and then she opens it up, and then she realizes it's a paternity test revealing that the child is not her, not the man's, and she's like, why? She's like, it's not true, it's not true. He's like, everything is right there. All right, we did the test, it's right there. And then she'll go, why did you do this for? Why did you do this for? In other words, she viewed him as nothing more than a beta male simp, and she did it deliberately. She knew that child wasn't his. All right. She went and deliberately had a child with some other man. And she had this man raising that child. How can you do that to a person? How can you consciously do this to a person? And yet that's what most women do to men. That's what most women do to men. And there's a lot of men where you'll tell them to go and have a DNA test. Go and get, like, you don't look, they're like, oh, it's my kid. I know it's my kid. The kid looks like me. I'm like, okay, cool. But go and have a DNA test. For example, I know a guy who has a kid. There's something wrong with the kid, and they can't figure out what the hell is wrong with the kid. And I kept telling the simp, go and have a paternity test, because he's like, it's not in his family. None of the issues exist in his family. And the woman's like, she doesn't know what the problem is. I said, okay, well, just to rule one thing out, go and have a paternity test. And he's like, oh, you know what? The kid's definitely mine. I'm not going to contest it. And I'm thinking to myself, I understand you're not going to contest it, but just to be on the safe side, go and have a paternity test. And he refuses. And that's how a lot of simps are, because they don't want to listen. And then the funny thing is that when they find out that these children are not theirs, and they're shocked, like, but you don't understand, man. The kid looked just like me, and blah 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 blah. Bro, leave me alone. I don't care about you. I told you to go and have a test. Don't be like that. All right. I really thought the kid was mine. I was sure that the kid is. I told you. You hadn't. Listen to me. You are so lucky to have someone like Uncle Angry in your life to guide you and tell you about society and how women operate and the world, and you did not want to listen. And now you're basically gonna pay the consequences for it, or you have been paying the consequences for it. And it's like, you want someone to comfort you, and it's just not gonna happen. All right, guys, you have to understand that we don't want to admit that the individuals who are doing these things are wicked. Most of these people are wicked, and that is a part of their core nature, wickedness. All right, we are dealing with functionally insane people at best, and I've said that plenty of times. And it's something that people like psych hacks don't want to talk about. It's something that people like Jordan Peterson don't want to talk about. That if men did these things, they would be classified as evil, vindictive. They would say that they would call us wicked. But we are not allowed to call the other group that's doing this wicked, because they would then say that it's a form of, they would use the M word of misogyny and all this other garbage, when it's a fact, when you can observe these behaviors and call it exactly what it is and not make excuses. Or they'll go, no, Walt, not all women, when we can clearly see that these specific behaviors are common among a specific group who engages in this type of thing and has or no empathy or even a least shred of guilt for what they have done. because they believe that they are entitled to do it and that no one can stop them. And because we live in a society that does not hold them accountable, they will continue to do these things. And you have to remember that simps don't care, because simps do not like us. The average simp despises men. They don't like us. They were not. That's the thing. When you say to a simp, you betrayed men, you betrayed masculinity, the simp will respond, "Who told you I was ever on your side?" You have to understand, simps do not like us. Simps are agents of the state. They have an agenda, okay? And their agenda is basically to empower and enrich their own lives, but through the betrayal of men. And guys, think about it carefully. Whenever you see these companies that have been taken over by DEI and woke culture, who are the men left at these companies? Simps. Okay? The Sims agreed to all of the garbage, and they double down on DEI, and they're like, I'm an ally and all this, because these people have no souls. So when everything is said and done, the only people that are going to be left are members of, the Rainbow Brigade, some women who fall in line with these ideologies, and the Sims who help to foster the environment where this could actually become a reality. Sims are the enemy of humanity.
Look, with such a big fool of a husband, of course, she won't choose to divorce. Moreover, since this matter doesn't involve bigamy, and since this woman doesn't take her marriage seriously, she's not afraid of being criticized at all. Some people say that men who work away from home, after seeing this case, might start worrying about their wives' situation at home, and want to go back and do a paternity test. Thus, this case has become a typical example of marital infidelity. Some unhealthy trends in society indeed need to be rectified, especially the lack of ethics and moral standards. Of course, having children outside of marriage is unacceptable from both a moral and legal standpoint. There are some misguided values in society that mislead young people. For instance, some tell girls not to marry for love but for money, and then find love afterward. Such advice is truly not worth believing. How can society function like this? However, no matter what, this woman has already made an irreversible decision. Her husband's life can never return to what it was. And how will the children she's given birth to face their mother and biological father in the future?
Recently, there has been a news story from Jiangxi, where a man discovered that none of his 4 children were biologically his. Initially, he went to court over the fact that 3 of the children were not his, but during the litigation the 4th child was born, and it turned out that this child was also not his. This incident has sparked a lot of discussion. After my wife saw this news, she asked me, "What would you do if you were in his shoes?" Let's assume you want this woman to pay a price, but you can't break the law. If this were a TV drama, I might have her not survive past the first episode. But in reality, what should we do? As a man, I feel this situation is very complicated, and what else can you do? This is a moral issue, not something that can be easily handled. I said maybe he could ask for some economic compensation, but the 4 children have already been born. You can't just abandon them because you know the truth. After all, what would happen to those 4 kids? In my moment of frustration, I suggested, what if we beat her up? But my wife disagreed immediately, saying, that's not right. That's violence and it violates the law. That would be intentional harm, which is a criminal offense. So what should we do? In the end, the 2 of us discussed it and concluded that the man could choose to pack his things and leave, severing ties with this woman completely. You cannot continue to stay involved with her. He should go work in another place and never get entangled with her again. Honestly, you won't win against this woman. The reason is that she is the mother of the 4 children. If something happens to her, those 4 children will still call you their father, and you will have to take responsibility for them. So, stop thinking about seeking justice. What's more, it's possible that there are more than one biological fathers of these 4 children. Perhaps several men are their fathers. Are you men supposed to each take one child and raise it? This is an unsolvable problem. There is simply no way to resolve it. Some people might suggest punishing this woman, making her pay a price. But that approach isn't realistic. If you do that, in the end, you'll be the one who suffers the consequences, taking on responsibilities left by others. Are you guys going to raise these kids together or each go your separate ways and continue living your own lives? This issue cannot be resolved at all. I don't understand why some commentators discuss this issue as if they have it all figured out and speak so confidently. What can you really do? What can you do to this woman? If I were that woman facing this situation, I would just sit there, not afraid of your threats. Even if all 4 children are not your biological children, what can you do to me? Can you sue me? Arrest me? You simply can't do anything to her. What logic do you think you can reason with such a person? So men need to wake up. When choosing a wife, make sure to consider her character. Don't just get married because you're lonely or because you're getting older. Don't just find someone to marry because everyone else already has a wife and you are alone. Even when considering a woman who has been married before, you should still be cautious. You think at least people won't laugh at you in the beginning, but eventually they will. You see, this man is now the subject of ridicule across China.
我已经做过亲子鉴定了，他不是我亲生的，我不接他。
Guys, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Crypto Trading for Dummies blueprint. With this blueprint, you'll learn how crypto day trading can help you earn daily profits, even starting small. Imagine making $30 a day with $100, or even hundreds daily trading small amounts. Working just an hour a day. It's written so simply that even a 5th grader can do it. With banks collapsing and the economy in chaos, this skill is your lifeline. Click the link in the description to check it out now. And you can find the crypto trading blueprint in the Crypto Academy, link in the description. And it is a part of the bootcamp membership. So when you sign up for bootcamp, you'll get access to that. Guys, modern women, they have no real conscience. You have to remember that a woman operates on emotions. All right, not their brains are not wired the way that our brains are wired, and there's no such thing as a virtuous individual. The very notion that you have to basically know this woman like the back of your hand and blah blah blah, it can only do so much. There's so many men that married women from the church, all right, and she was the best actress in the world, and she took all of these steps to ensure that she could deceive you, because she deliberately knew that she was not going to have children with you. So she made sure to deceive you. And you didn't know because you think that this woman actually loves you and cares about you and she is your wife. She was never yours. It was just your turn. Sadly, a lot of men don't learn these things until it's too late, and then they want to come and cry. Guys, notice that. That's why I say all roads lead to Uncle Angry. You only have 2 choices in this matter. All right, in this world right now, you can walk away or go your own way. Walk away are men walking away are basically men with alternatives. All right, so you can go overseas and try to find someone overseas, but keep in mind, even then, you still have to be careful. With a lot of Filipinas, they will smile, but they will deceive you. This is something that the MGTOWs used to say, is that you have to be very careful when you do the passport bro thing, because overseas, women, especially in Asian countries, they're taught to smile. And the fact that they're taught to smile, it's done to put you at ease. But realistically, it results in you lowering your guard and making it easier for her to deceive you. This is something that men consciously know. Guys, it's crazy how I'm able to share this with you. And even today, there's so many guys who don't have these answers. They don't have this knowledge, but all of this knowledge came from a lot of men who went through these things. It comes from my own experiences as well, but a lot of it comes from the experiences of other men. And I've said this already. Smart men learn from their own mistakes. Wise men learn from their own mistakes as well as the mistakes of others. And now I'm able to share this with you. I have guys who are baby boomers, and they're like, this is the first time I've heard anyone get as close to the reality out there as you have. I have people who are I've got a lot of Gen Xers, and I've even some boomers who call me Uncle Angry, because just because you're older than me doesn't mean you are wiser than me. All right, because of all the things that I have learned. I've learned from the mistakes of other men, and I'm telling you, when I have baby boomers, men in their 60s, calling me Uncle Angry or Angry Sama, that should tell you about the reality that most men do not really understand, don't understand women. They don't, because think about this. We are men who were raised by three generations of women. Three generations of women, and we can see what those consequences are because we have not had proper male influences in our lives. Most of our fathers were simps. It's true. I'm not saying every one of our fathers were simps, but most of our fathers were simps, and it has left a significant impact on our lives and society. So we have not had proper male role models to teach us and guide us. And it took so much suffering for me to get this knowledge and other men to get this knowledge. And a lot of you take it for granted until you go and you mess around, and then you mess around, you find out, and you come back to me 10 years later, and you know exactly who you are. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. I've been doing this for 10 years, over 10 years now on YouTube. And I still have these people coming back 10 years later saying that they went out to the streets after I told them not to. They messed around, found out, and now they want me to hold their hand and tell them it's going to be okay. No, I don't think so. Get out of here. Go back. It's from the streets that you came. It's to the street. It is to the streets that you shall return. You were told not to do these things. You did them anyway. Now go suffer in the rest of the world. Let a young man, let another man who wanted to listen and could learn, let them benefit. But I don't have time for you, bro. I don't have time for you. I'm just being so real about it.
Recently, I came across a news event. Although it is no longer fresh news, this kind of thing is becoming increasingly common, and it no longer shocks people. The main character of the event is a father who just did a paternity test, and he expressed his feelings. I've already done the paternity test. He's not my biological child. I won't pick him up from kindergarten anymore. This child only entered kindergarten this April, and every day, it was the father who picked him up and dropped him off. The mother was never seen. From the father's words, it is clear that he has already learned the result he could not accept. The paternity test showed that the child is not his biological son. Although the father is furious and has decided not to pick up the child anymore, it seems that he cannot completely let go of his feelings for the child. Even so, he still calls every day to check on the child. This father is clearly in a state of great inner conflict. He knows the truth and cannot accept the harsh reality, but he is reluctant to sever the emotional bond he has with the child. This kind of contradictory emotion is something anyone can understand. The school tried to contact the child's mother, but they couldn't reach her. Eventually, they got in touch with the child's grandfather and uncle. However, both the grandfather and uncle showed indifference, as if they had no familial bond with the child, like a complete stranger. Although everyone is aware that the responsibility for this situation lies entirely with the mother who abandoned the child, there are always some people on the internet who fancy themselves as smart and criticize the father, without addressing the mother's responsibility. This kind of moral kidnapping, in comments, is really infuriating.
Think about it very carefully. We live in a world where women have special privileges, men have special punishments. Women are bailed out of every bad decision that they make, and they're not held accountable for anything that they do, even when it involves destroying the life of a child. This is the reason why women are the only ones legally able to, end a pregnancy. If a man does it, he can basically be charged with a crime. And when I say a crime, I'm talking about first degree. You know what? It's a sick society that we live in. All right. Think about someone like Cardi B. Cardi B talked about publicly, luring men to hotel rooms and basically doing the Bill Cosby Act with them. And when these men were no longer conscious, she would rob them. And people were like, this was happening during the whole R. Kelly thing. And people were like, it was like surviving R. Kelly. And people were saying surviving Cardi B. After Cardi B did this, McDonald's then goes on to partner with her and give her a Cardi B meal. This just shows you how little society cares about men, and no one talks about it anymore. Because when men do these types of things, they will basically be under the prison. When women do these types of things, they are praised and celebrated while these actions are completely like swept away. If it's a man if a man gets into a relationship with a person who is not of age, he is going to prison for decades. If a woman gets into a relationship with a person who is not of age, simps will sit in the comment sections of YouTube videos after hearing about the story, saying that they wish they had a teacher like her. I'm telling you guys, this is the reason why men are increasingly walking away from society and relationships and choosing to focus on themselves and their own happiness. And guys, we're heading into an extraordinary period of hardship where the curtain will be pulled back. Everyone is going to see what the US dollar is, that it is it's completely garbage. The US dollar is completely garbage, guys, and it's going to collapse very, very soon. I keep telling you, it's going to collapse very, very soon. The president of Venezuela, I've showed you this clip a couple of times now. He explained what the US dollar actually is. And the US dollar is literally nothing. It's basically debt backed by debt.
I talk to my conservative friends right here. They always tell me that the problem is high taxes, but they're wrong. Of course, high taxes are extremely high here in the United States. I give you that. You're right in that. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is not the high taxes themselves, but the fact that they are not even really funding the government. Not even those high taxes, higher than a lot of places in the world, not even those taxes are really funding the government. So who's financing the government? Government is financed by treasury bonds, paper. And who buys the treasury bonds? Mostly the Fed. And how does the Fed buy them? By printing money. What backing does the Fed have for that money being printed? The treasury bonds themselves. So basically, you finance the government by printing money out of thin air. Someone could ask, well, so if the government can print unlimited amounts of money out of thin air, why do they collect taxes? I mean, in theory, it would make sense, right? If they can print unlimited amounts of money, why would they need taxes for? The answer is simple, but it's very shocking. The real problem is that you pay high taxes only to uphold the illusion that you are funding the government, which you are not. It's shocking, but it's true. The government is funded by money printing, paper backed with paper, a bubble that will inevitably burst. The situation is even worse than it seems, because if most Americans and the rest of the world were to become aware of this farce, confidence in your currency would be lost, the dollar would fall, and the Western civilization with it. If the next president of the United States doesn't make the necessary policies and structural changes, sooner or later that bubble will burst. There's still time. You don't have to make the same mistakes we did in the 60s and the 70s. You can still jump before the water boils. Winning the election isn't enough to solve these problems. They will not simply go away as a consequence of an electoral result. It would take a total re-engineering of the government, top to bottom. It will entail making difficult decisions, like the ones we made in El Salvador since 2019 and that are already paying off. It will be hard. The system will push back, but you have the right to determine your own fate. Salvadorans did the same. The decision for the direction of our nation was ours, and it continues to be ours. We didn't tolerate being told what to do. In doing so, we did the unthinkable. Against all adversity, we transformed El Salvador from the most dangerous country in the world to the safest in the Western Hemisphere.
Guys, don't forget that Project 2025 is coming. And when Project 2025 hits, it's over, because a lot of the programs that women are relying upon are going to disappear under Trump. And Elon and Vivek, they're going to cut all of these charities. They're going to cut all of these grants that women are relying upon. Okay, a lot of the foolery and nonsense is going to come to an end, and they're going to find themselves in extraordinary states of poverty and destitution. Women are going to fall in a state that will leave the rest of the world, women in what we would call developing countries. You're gonna have women in countries like, countries overseas, and in like Thailand and the Philippines and, Turkey and, Africa. Africa. You're gonna have women in these countries, Middle East, that are going to look at women in Western society and ask, how did women in Western society in the United States and other Westernized countries end up in the terrible condition that they are currently in? This was actually something that someone predicted would happen back in the 2000s. They wrote like a manifesto about it, and I wish I could find it. I can't, but it's very interesting. They predicted this would happen in the 2020s, and I actually predicted a number of years ago that we would see the Great V collapse. I thought it was going to happen back in 2020, but like I said, I've been doing this for over 10 years, but we all know what happened in 2020. the entire world shut down, and that kind of slowed things down. But we're beginning to pick up and accelerate again. And ultimately, we are going to see the great V collapse. Guys, what women did was they took the V, they dipped it in gold, put it on a pedestal, and said, "Worship me." And we know how God treats idols. He loves to destroy them. But what he will do is he will let them rise to the highest of heights before he lets them fall from that height. And then when they hit the ground, and trust me, it hurts. That's when they're going to find themselves in a new reality, a reality of all their making and as well as their undoing. What do you guys think regarding all of this? Men are refusing to have children and women are pissed, but they're also panicking because they know that the farce is quickly beginning to come to an end as men walk away from relationships, dating, and society and instead choose to focus on themselves and their own happiness. Men will be living lives of simplicity and comfort while women will be living in severe poverty and destitution. As the world continues to change, we saw the pendulum swung so far left that it's going to have to swing far right before possibly settling somewhere in the middle. It took over 50 years for us to get to this point. All right, this problem will not be fixed in 5 to 10. It will take decades, if not 100 years or more, before anything possible can change. And before that can happen, the current generation of women will have to have moved on to the next one, and a new generation of women will have to have replaced them. Multiple new generations of women will have to have replaced them that have seen what feminism did and how it has affected their lives, what they were born into, poverty, destitution, hardship, while men are basically living their best lives as they walk away and continue walking away. And the only options that these women will have will be Chad and Tyrone, who are not marriageable men in the first place. And of course, the state we will be between a rock and a hard place, because a society without its men is not a society. A society without its men is a wasteland. Look at what's happening over in California, where they fired all the male firefighters to replace them with women, and we can see what that diversity, equity, and inclusion led to. It led to people basically being control alt deleted. It led to massive property damage that is now estimated to cost above $200 billion, the worst loss in U.S. history. It's only going to continue getting worse from there. And of course, women will never take any accountability for any of it, which is why men will continue to walk away and the Sims will continue to run wild and take advantage of the situation, because the Sims are pathetic, they are losers, and frankly speaking, we should not really spend much time on them because these are soulless individuals. Let me know your thoughts and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.
Nothing says you care like crypto. Nothing can compare. Nothing says you care like crypto. Oh, nothing can compare to crypto.